Good afternoon, and thanks for joining a special edition of Options Corner. I'm Jenny Horn, today joined by Tom White, of course, the co-host of Fast Market, and we're discussing some unusual options activity in the market today, starting with one of the largest companies in the overall market here, which is Nvidia, looking at some of the more bullish activity we're seeing within options trading today, Tom. So walk us through what caught your attention.
Well, one of the things that caught my attention is the fact that Nvidia is one of the only Mag 7s that's higher today. So not surprising, we're seeing call volume more than double what put volume is today. Even on a lighter trading day, we've still got about 1.5 million calls trading in Nvidia. This might be on the back of the ByteDance, TikTok's owner, stating that they're trying to purchase up to $7 billion worth of Nvidia chips outside of China. Remember, they can't buy them inside of China, the high bandwidth ones that they need for their data centers. So that's probably putting a little bit of support into the stock. And then also the upcoming January 6th CES conference, where Jensen Huang is going to give the keynote address. That's going to be probably big. He's probably going to give some indication on demand for their products for the Blackwell. They're basically sold out of those chips already. And a lot of the big tech companies have stated, hey, we're going to continue to spend on AI infrastructure build out, and that helps Nvidia because they own about 85% of the data center chips, GPU chips that are out there at this point. And then on top of that, you got Rubin, which is maybe he's going to give some indication on Rubin and the expectations, because that's the next iteration of their AI chip. So a lot going right for Nvidia so far this year, up over 180%, up over 1%, nearly 2% today. And we saw some bullish call activity in here and out in the January monthly cycle that expires on the 17th. So about 18 days to expiration. A lot of activity early on in the session on the 140 strike calls in here. Over 40,000 were scooped up early on. They paid an average debit of about $4.30 on these calls. So that break even of 144.30 over the next 2.5 weeks or so. That's about 3% above the current share price in Nvidia. So you don't need a big, massive move to the upside. That catalyst could be the keynote address on the 6th of January. Over 65,000 calls have now traded on that strike today. Open interest on that strike at the 140 line has been massive. It was over 280,000 today, so that's going to continue to grow. But you saw a lot of call buying, not only in the January monthly options that expire in 18 days, but in the near-term options on the 140 strike, the February 140 strikes. So big, massive volume on this big round number of 140. The stock's still off about 9% from its all-time highs, but not in correction territory anymore with the gains today.
Okay, yeah, and hanging on to a pretty nice move today, like you said, leading the Mag 7, leading all of our tech really throughout our coverage. We have Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft, Netflix, Tesla lower. Well, Nvidia's actually firmed up on the session, up 1.5%. To now shift gears, though, and unfortunately look at a name that is lower today. That is Alaska Air, which is down about 1.25%. A name that has had a really nice year, along with the rest of the airlines. I mean, I think actually a under-discussed winner of that post-election momentum, but has pulled back about 4% from highs here. What are we seeing also as far as some bullish options activity? Yeah,
all the airlines have been doing really well, Jenny, and we know that because travel demand has been skyrocketing, right? And Alaska Airlines is no different, up over 65% so far this year. You see that parabolic move? If you overlay that with almost every other major airline out there, the charts are going to look the same. We're at over 3.5-year highs in the shares. Now, December 10th, they came out with their Alaska Accelerate on their investor day, how they're going to expand routes over into Asia, whether it's South Korea, Japan also. That merger with Hawaiian Airlines is really helping them expand their fleet and their capacity in the Far East as demand starts to ramp up. They launched Seattle as their new global gateway, nonstop service using those planes that they got from Hawaiian. They said it's a merger. It's basically a takeover. And then they also, during that event, they raised their fiscal year EPS view to about $5.75, up from the consensus, which was about $5.44. So good things going for a lot of the airlines, Alaska included. Did see some unusual option activity in here. Now, just over 10,000 calls traded on the January 17th, the 65 strike call. About 96,000 of the total option volume across all their option series has been on this strike, and the unusual option activity that stuck out to me was on those January 65 calls. They bought over 10,000 of those, paid an average debit of $1.90 on them. So the break even for this trader where they start to profit, $66.90 over the next 18 days. That's only about 2.5% above the current share price in Alaska Air. And as I mentioned, call volume exploding in here. Call volume is about 1.5 times normal daily average volume, but that's even it with thin trading going into the New Year's holiday on Wednesday. So yeah, somebody thinks that we're going to see some more gains for Alaska into that January 17th expiration.
Okay, and last but not least here, an area of the market that has definitely garnered our attention in the end of this year, which is all things relating to crypto, Bitcoin. Bitcoin futures, of course, down today, but actually easing off lows. Well, Riot Platforms is down about 3.6%, so one of our more sizable moves to the downside of that we're looking at today. But also, talk about exploding volume. I mean, this name always has solid volume. I mean, it's just one of those areas of the market without even news, really, it always garners our attention.
And one of the reasons, and I think one of the big problems, if you look at this, is that Riot is used, or has been used in the past, as a proxy for trading Bitcoin. And if you look at the gains in Bitcoin, nearly 120% gains in 2024. Riot blockchain is down over 30% so far in 2024. So we've seen a real big divergence between that. They own a lot of Bitcoin. On December 16th, they announced closing of senior notes that they used to purchase more Bitcoin, right? I believe they hold total holdings of 17,429 Bitcoin as of mid-December. So you would think that, hey, this could be a big proxy for Bitcoin, but it hasn't been. Starboard Value came in on the 12th of December. They announced a significant position in Riot Platforms, pushing for changes at the Bitcoin mining operator, according to the Wall Street Journal. So that was maybe a bonus. Piper Sandler came out just a couple days ago, initiated coverage with an overweight rating, $23 price target on this one. They said that they expect Bitcoin to continue to rise. And Bitcoin should take advantage of that, which they haven't so far this year. But we did see some optimism on this one. The stock was down over 5% earlier on in the sessions. Come back because Bitcoin's nearly unchanged on the day. It was down nearly 4% also. But out in the February 21st monthly cycle in here, we saw a trader buy over 45,000 of the 12 strike calls. They paid an average debit of only about $1.24 on these, pretty far out of the money calls. So the break even of 13.24 over the next 53 days, that's 24.5% above the current share price in Riot blockchain. So you need a pretty big move on a percentage basis, but you got to remember, less than 2 weeks ago, the stock was trading over $14.70. Call volume about 4 times normal daily average volume that we've seen over the last 5 trading days in there. But put volume is also up in Riot blockchain too. But somebody thinks that, hey, we're going to see a bounce back, and maybe if Bitcoin gets back to 100K, maybe we see a push into Riot blockchain also. But this trader thinks, hey, I'm giving myself nearly 2 months in this position to get above that break even, but you do need about a 25% move to the upside, Jenny.
And speaking of our proxies of Bitcoin, I know by MicroStrategy has been long seen as well because of that increased holdings of Bitcoin. That also has pretty decent volume today, but also taking it on the chin a bit here, down about 4.3%. So some collective lower in a lot of these Bitcoin type proxy equities that we focus on here on the network. But that'll do it for our options corner today. Of course, thanks to Tom White, and thanks for joining us here on the Schwab Network. We'll see you next time.